Hey everybody, today I want to talk to you about being a little bit hedonic. So if you don't know what hedonic is, it's not the same thing as heretical. Hedonics is the pursuit of pleasure. And the reason this is so important is I actually think it's one of the things that we miss most in our lives. One of the aspects that are of critical importance but we dismiss, especially here in Western culture where it's all about effort, right? Effort is work. Effort and putting in work is what creates results. But again, with my coaching, my focus is on helping people produce effort and produce results that they want without burning out. And the game changer here is hedonics. And if you don't believe me, and you want to hear even more about this after this episode, check out Dr. Laurie Santos from Yale University and her studies. But from my perspective, here's what I want to make you aware of. Or here's a shift that I really want you to make, would probably be a more accurate way to say it. The shift is from need to want. Now, a lot of very popular speakers speak to need. And as coaches, we have a tendency to speak to need. Because need is related to survivability. And it's related to urgency. If we need something, that means it is important enough that it's non-optional. And taking out the option in our minds helps improve accountability. And that's the overall structure behind the need concept. They tell you, you want something, you don't get what you want, you get what you need. But I want to offer you a few bits of thought to consider, or to reconsider and reshape that thought. Where does need come from? It's a necessity. So but looking at that necessity, do we want it? Yes, we want it because we consider it a necessity. And that's where the urge comes from. But want is still a factor. If we need it, but we have zero desire to pursue it, we often don't get it. And we can see that in our lives all the time. But all the people who need something. I have had a colleague recently who was in desperate need of support and help and assistance. He was in a very difficult place in his life. He had a lot of struggles. And as a result, myself and another coworker, we would constantly show up and give him alternatives. He would express a need, a fear, a concern. And he wasn't from the US, there were language barriers, so we would go out of our way to help him understand and try to give him resources that would help answer that need. People who get him in touch with people who knew more about what he needed than we did, or specific areas. And these are things like housing, healthcare, right? Things that most of us believe we need. Like these, of all things, of many things outside of food, should be need-based. However, whenever we followed up, he almost never took action, even though we basically silver-plattered assistance to him. And it was a really sad reality, what the truth was. He needed them, but he was he's in a very bad place. He was very depressed, because life did not work out and had not been working out for him the way he thought it would when he came to America from where he moved from. He struggled with a language barrier. He struggled with our culture around production and work versus social support. And as a result, he felt very overwhelmed and very defeated. So even though he needed to find solutions, his productivity was falling off and he needed money, but he was worried about losing his job, right? He needed to show up differently at work. He needed all these things because they were a matter of survivability. But what he wanted, because of his depression and his overwhelm, was to hide, was to just be gifted. He wanted to just have things change with no effort. And again, we gifted a lot. Right? We showed up where we could. But ultimately, as I hope everyone watching this knows, and if you don't, all the wisdom in the world means nothing if you're not in a place to receive it or put it into action. As many people as I hope this video is speaking to, the only people that can change, the only people who can make change, the only person who can make change in my life is me. Now I can make change by getting extra wisdom, which is hopefully what you're doing here, and then figuring out how to apply it to our lives. But only we can make changes in our lives. Positive, like when it comes to mindset and the things that I'm talking about in this context. For him, we can give him all the resources, but if he doesn't pick up the resources, if you can have all the tools to do a job, but if you don't pick up the tools, it doesn't happen, right? And not to put down anyone who's in that situation, because I have been in this situation. I have wanted nothing more than to curl up and cease to exist. So I had great empathy and sympathy for his situation, which is why I kept trying to come up with ways to help him, reframe things, support him, coach him where I could, give him resources, help getting him in contact with experts who knew the answers that he did, interpreters, a lot of things, right? And as I talked to him, I found out that other people did too. He was telling me about other people reaching out to help him with different issues. But when I would ask, again, he didn't do anything because the want wasn't there. So we can talk about turning a want into a need all we want, ironically. But what really moves the needle is that want. Now, want can come from a lot of places. Want can come from desperation, right, and build urgency. But it's not as sustainable. When people are saying you need to want something so much you need it, they don't want but need, what they really want you to do, what the ultimate goal is to raise your desire. To be effective, they want to raise your desire. Well, maybe they want you to raise your urgency, but I want you to raise your desire. Because that's how you don't burn out from necessity and from need. It doesn't feel good to need. When you see something that you feel you need because you don't have it, it's very, very easy to fall into a deficit, scarcity mindset. Right? And if we feel, and that leads into lack, right? If we lack something, that doesn't feel good. It makes us feel incomplete. It makes us feel like we're not enough. But when we bring it back to the original desire, or we center it on desire and purpose, maybe the desire isn't enough. And that's why you think you need to change your want into a need. Like, I want something, but why aren't you taking action on it? Well, the truth is you don't want it enough. You may want it badly, but there's something missing. There's a connection to value in your mind that is preventing you from wanting it enough. And again, that's not a criticism, that's an acknowledgement. The more you want something, the more you work for it. Our brains encourage action based on reward, not on discipline. In fact, even when our brains work on discipline, what are they actually doing? They're trying to get rewarded by not being reprimanded. So I want you to think about is your goals. Think about the goals you have in life and check how much you want them. And they may be, again, if you truly believe they're supportive and when you investigate they're not arbitrary, then where is the want? And how can you increase the want is what I want to ask you. Not how you can increase the need. How can you increase the want? How can you increase that focus? Well, one way is by looking at positivity. How can you shape the effort into a highly positive result? How positive can you make that result? Maybe some things need to shift to make that result more positive. Whether it's the actions you're actually taking, like the actual outcome, or you're thinking in the process along the way. Whatever, how can you make it more rewarding? And that's the second thing I want to talk about today. And this is something that I realized, and I want to take a quick minute to thank everyone who's watching this. Because as I constantly try to think of ways to provide value, it puts me in a mindset of giving and sharing, which makes me happy. So I want to thank you. And I also want to thank the subscribers that I have now. This page is very new, but I already have some subscribers, and I want to thank you because it helps me know that I'm showing up in a positive way and people are finding value. And I really appreciate that reciprocity, so thank you. But the other thing I realized that, and I talk about it, and we talk about balance. And again, this is going to go back to the hedonics of finding pleasure. Right? The more pleasure we get, the more willing we are to work for it, because ultimately that's what our body wants. It doesn't want stress, it doesn't want difficulty. We do the stress and difficulty because sometimes we condition ourselves to value it and appreciate it. Like doing hard things, depending on the hard thing, doing hard things feels really good to me. Not doing hard things feels like garbage to me. Like if I think I skipped out on a hard thing, that doesn't feel good. And that's my value set. Yours obviously can be different, but either way, following pleasure is important. And that's why I want to offer a new rule to you, and one that, again, this is part of the reason I'm thanking everyone who is watching this, because without trying to think of ways to offer you good advice and provide service, I may have not gotten the same clarity in this. But I want you to institute a rule for every hard thing you do. When you set a goal for something hard to do, a new goal for something hard to do, I want you to always have a joy goal. And again, I'll be instituting this into my coaching programs starting literally today. I have a session later today, and we're going to be talking about this, and we're going to be instituting it. And again, it's one great way to avoid burnout. And it's honestly kind of a matter of balance. You know, sometimes we push hard, sometimes we do something fun, but it's really easy to get lost in one feeling more urgent or necessary, the disciplined one, and not recognizing the joy. But I want you to do a one-to-one rule. As long as you are striving for something that is challenging and difficult and is outside of your comfort zone, may not be fun, even if you desire it, you want it. And building in that want, and when you think about the outcome, it brings you joy. And that's what you want to have all the time with any goals you set. If you set a goal and you get it in your mind, and when you think about it, it makes you smile, it makes you happy. It's like, this is going to improve my life genuinely, and I feel it. I feel it. It's not some arbitrary, someone told me it's going to help my life. You really believe it. Those are the goals worth having, to be clear. But more than that, the work can be difficult. It can be challenging. The work can be less motivating at times, and that's why we have to maintain the vision of why we decided to choose it and maintain that want and up that want. But in addition, in process, you are doing something that maybe you don't enjoy or is difficult or uncomfortable. So I want you to set a joy goal for every hard goal. Every time you set a new hard goal and you want to level up, while it is in process, have a joy goal that is also in process. If I'm going to do something really hard this week, I'm going to commit to doing something I really enjoy this week is all. It's a simple way to maintain a level of balance, but also a passive way to maintain focus on the goal of hard things are done for a positive result, for a positive increase, for something fulfilling and happy and joyful. Right? And if you make that commitment, it helps offset the energy. Because joy replenishes, joy replenishes your potential, effort depletes it as it turns it into kinetic energy and turns it into manifestation, which can obviously be cyclical and can build us up. The more we accomplish, the better we feel, because then we realize, we can't accomplish. And that is self-fulfilling. But from now on, I challenge you that every time you have a hard goal, commit to something joyful. Make a joy goal that will overlap. And sometimes those joy goals are shorter term than those hard goals, and that's fine. Make a joy goal. Make a joy goal every week. Have a hard goal. If you have a hard goal that week, have a joy goal. If you don't have a hard goal that week, have a joy goal. Because the more happiness we have in our lives, the more open we are, the more we are open to change and responding to our world in a positive environment. And it actually opens up our thinking environment. We think better when we're happy, because our world seems brighter and more expansive. So that's what I want to offer you today. Get a little hedonic. Lean into pleasure. It's going to support you more than all the effort will. The effort is important. It's transformational. But without leaning into being a little hedonic, finding joy, finding pleasure, making pleasure a priority in your life, it's going to lead to burnout if all you do is do, without looking out for you.